The Volvo EX30 is an awesome and great car, and I actually really love it. I think it is superb, but it does have a few fundamental issues and flaws that just drive me completely crazy and makes it hard for me to recommend this car to anybody. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you guys what the good and the bad with the Volvo EX30 is. The EX30 carries Volvo's newest design language first saw in the EX90. It's an evolution of what we first saw with the XC90 back in 2014. Its simple, sleek, and elegant lines combines into a very attractive design in my opinion. And like most modern Volvos, this design is going to age very well. Being a very short car, but also tall, this is a new direction for Volvo and a new direction that will bring new people into the brand for the first time. We have a brand new podcast on the Norwegian channel about electric cars. It's with me, my friend Tony, and my friend Volvo Christian. It's really cool and fun. We have 5 episodes uploaded already, so if you want to check it out, I would really appreciate it. Go to the link down below. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about the interior ergonomics in a different part of this video, where I'm going to dive deep into the new button layout, the new stock layout, and also the new infotainment system, for better or for worse. But in this part of the video, I want to talk about the interior styling, material quality, and just the overall, ambience of this interior. So at this point in time, I have spent a lot of time behind the steering wheel of Volvo EX30s on several occasions, but this is the first time I've had the car on Norwegian soil for a whole week of testing, where I'm actually able to maybe just take it all in, enjoy it, and just sit on my thoughts and not rush to make a video. And I have to say, I really do appreciate the new interior design. I know a lot of people have been criticizing this interior because it's so simple, it's almost Tesla-like, but I think that is a grave mistake, because I don't think this is even close to what Tesla make in any of their cars. Yes, it may be simplistic, but it is also very Scandinavian in its approach, where there are very little things happening. It's very clean, but also at the same time there are many different layers of materials. There are interesting shapes and interesting solutions. So first off, you have this Nordico trim that you have on top of the doors. You have it here on the dashboard and also on the armrest and on the seat cushions. And this is a really nice high quality, something in between wetsuit material and an artificial leather. It just feels really nice and has a nice texture. And then on the steering wheel, they have this artificial leather, which may just be the nicest artificial, best simulated leather I've seen in any steering wheel in any car, because it just is soft. It has a really nice, it just looks luxurious. And I wish they actually used this on the seats as an option. I think it is that nice. And then you have this recycled material that you can find here on the door card and on the dashboard, and it does not feel cheap. When you tap it like that, it actually feels there is some kind of substance, and it's just a really nice material. It looks nice, it is interesting. And this trim you can have different trims and different models. You can have what looks like kind of terrazzo tiles, but I really like this blue here. And it's not before you are down low in the cabin where you actually have hard touch plastics. But again, at this price point, I don't mind that. And especially because it's an interesting, pattern that they have. It's not just black. It's like there's like this gray pattern weaved into the black hard plastics. And then you have stuff like the door handles, which just look really nice. You have this metal strip, which just goes into this door handle, and it just looks especially nice. I just went to Germany to see the Audi Q6 e-tron, and that had a lot of cheap and nasty plastics around the door handle. This is the complete opposite, where obviously they've made it simple to cut cost, but where they actually, the touch points and your visual points is of high quality. And then you have, the buttons here, which are in Volkswagen fashion, where you have to press rear to operate the rear, and then you have to press it again to only operate the front buttons, because there are only 2 buttons, left and right, but they just feel really high quality. And then you have this, which is a very smart like cup holder, where when you're not using it, you can just stow it away. And then you have this expansive center console, which I'm not quite sure what to think about. Maybe if you use a bag in your daily activities, it's nice to have that storage space, but I just think it's just very empty here. And also this wireless charger, which is nice to have. There's no lip here, so when you drive, it just keeps moving around, which is just super annoying, which means I actually don't use it. But visibility is great, the seats are great, and everything you touch and feel, you know, above your waistline in the cabin just looks and feels of high quality. I think it is actually very impressive. Where the front cabin in the EX30 is very spacious and roomy and comfortable, the rear seats are a completely different story. If you've seen any of my videos on the EX30 before, you know that the rear seat is very tight, and that is due to a very short wheelbase of 2.65 meters. And this seat is set to my driving position. I picked this car up about a week ago. I set it to this driving position, and I haven't thought about the seat's settings since. But if I were to, you know, sit behind here, I would probably ask the driver to move it up a centimeter or 2. And me as a driver, I wouldn't notice. I would be just fine. So there should be just a little bit more room than you see here, but it is still very tight. I mean, it is a deal breaker for a lot of people. I absolutely can, you know, see that, because I'm 5'10" or 178 centimeters, maybe 5'11" or 180 centimeters with shoes on a good day. So I'm an average adult, and I would be fine like sitting like this for a shorter trip. But a lot of my friends are 6'3", 6'4", and I think at that size, you don't want to sit in the rear seat of this car at all, because it would be really tight. You cannot sit, if you're going to sit like this, you can't sit 3 adults abreast. But headroom though is actually pretty decent, this much headroom, so tall adults are still going to be pretty comfortable here. And when it comes to the rear seats materials, it is actually pretty nice. You still have that Nordico trim there. You still have, you know, this recycled plastic trim here. And also the door handles are of really high quality, and I like them a lot. This video is sponsored by Kempower. Kempower manufactures some of the most unique and best DC fast chargers on the market. Their satellite chargers offers flexibility and a user experience like no other. As a user, you don't have to think about what speed your car can charge at and then choose a charger that matches that speed. Kempower satellites with their load balancing system does all of this for you. All you have to do is connect and let Kempower do the rest. A huge thanks to Kempower for sponsoring this video. As much as I like the exterior styling of this car, as much as I like the interior and the quality of this car, as much as I like a lot of things about the Volvo EX30, I think the thing I like the most is real huge strength is the way it drives, because compared to a lot of other EVs and other Volvos, this feels next generation in the way it drives. And at this point in time, I've had, you know, the opportunity to drive this car in northern Sweden. I've driven it on a few ice tracks and really gotten to, you know, play with this car without the ESC off, and just have, you know, push this car to the limit more than most people would. And a lot of people say, yeah, doing that is just for journalists, it's just for fun. People don't, you know, do that in real life. But in my opinion, I think when a car behaves the way you want dynamically at and beyond the limit, fundamentally you're talking about a good car that on a road like here in the suburbs of Oslo just is inherently really nice to drive. So I'm going to compare this to a few other cars. You know, I've driven from Volvo, EX40, EC40, and also Volkswagen ID3, because the price point of this car is very similar to that car. And compared to its bigger brother, the EC40, EX40, this is more quiet and also feels a lot lighter on its feet. The way the suspension is tuned is just a little bit more sophisticated, and also especially the steering is so nice in this car. So it's very light, which I really do like. I mean, steering doesn't have to be heavy for it to be positive and nice and have feedback. This steering is relatively light. There is a few settings where you can set it to even lighter or a little bit heavier. I've set it to the middle setting, and I just think it's really nice. So off center, it just feels so positive and eager to turn. The speed of the rack is just perfect. And also, even though it is super light, it does have really nice feedback. When you start going quickly on a twisty road, it just comes alive, this steering. But even on the daily, it's just so nice. It's so nicely weighted. It's really delicate compared to other electric assisted steerings I've tested in those other cars. Like compared to its bigger brother, this is superior. Compared to also the Volkswagen ID3, this is so much nicer. It really just makes the car feel so alive and light. And then we have, you know, the refinement and the cabin insulation in this car. I'm just gonna say it right away. I got to drive this car on studded winter tires on the exact same roads a week apart in northern Sweden, where I drove this and also the Polestar 2. And this is so much more quiet than the Polestar 2 or the Volvo EC40, EX40. The sound insulation in the wheel arches, underfloor, wind noise, this is just a much more quiet experience. And you know, one of the biggest, you know, issues I've had with those CMA cars, Polestar 2 and Volvo EC40, EX40, has been road insulation, where those cars are relatively noisy compared to the competition. Now this is as quiet as like bigger cars like Volkswagen ID4s and stuff like that. It is really refined and nice to drive. And then the last point is the suspension tuning. So this car, obviously it's an SUV, so it has more ground clearance than something like an ID3, and it just gives it an extra level of compliance and refinement compared to that car. And also compared to the EC40, EX40, it just feels more sophisticated. It just feels much more refined and upmarket. So it's just really comfortable to drive. Yes, it has a very short wheelbase, so you're gonna have a few limitations, like going quickly over a speed bump, because the time the front axle is hitting to the time the rear axle is hitting, because of that really short wheelbase, you're going to feel that. But that's down to just the size of the car, the physical limitations. But I've gotten to drive this car, you know, spiritedly on ice, on an ice track, and on B roads in northern Sweden, and it is super impressive. It's not, you know, the last word in sharpness, but it's just the compromise. It's just the way it's tuned. It's just this, it's in a sweet spot where I think this is one of the best driving electric cars, period. Like almost at any price point I've driven. The combination of comfort, the steering feel, and also the suspension and just the refinement levels, it's really good. And it's one of the reasons I really like this car, because it's so nice to drive. And also the fact that this is a relatively small car with a really good turning radius makes it really nice to drive on these suburban roads or inside the city of Oslo. It's just a really fun thing to pilot around. And this being the single motor extended range, it has, you know, 272 horsepower. It's rear wheel drive and does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.3 seconds. So this thing is fast by any standard. I got into this car and I'm like, wow, this is fast, and this is only the rear wheel drive version. There's also a twin performance version I'm going to drive next week, which I have driven in northern Sweden, and that thing is quick. That thing is really quick.
Every single day I feel the pressure. Double up the work, let's make it extra. Working so my mother get a rest job. Working like I never knew I'm best, yo. Every single day I feel the pressure. Diamonds in my eyes, I know I'm special. In the gym, I gotta get my lips up. In the gym,
The Harman Kardon sound system in the Volvo EX30 is a soundbar on the dashboard, and I think there are speakers in the rear doors, if I'm not mistaken. I may be mistaken, but I think we checked that out when I went to the launch in Milan last year. But the sound system in this car, I actually prefer to the Harman Kardon sound system in the EX40 and EC40, because I think the soundstage is a lot broader, it's a lot more roomy, and also this sound system plays better with more type of music and plays cleaner, more in the volume stage than that car, where you can play relatively loud in this car, and you know, if you play low or loud, the sound quality, the cleanness of the sound is very similar if you play low or loud music. Where I think the EX40 sound system, the EC40's Harman Kardon sound system, when you start playing really loudly, it just all falls apart. This doesn't play as loud as that EX40 sound system, but I think it's better for more types of music. I do prefer it. It just plays a lot cleaner. And also, I don't think there's a subwoofer. I think it has, you know, a low bass tone speaker, but it doesn't have a subwoofer. But that's also an advantage over the EX30, EX40 Harman Kardon sound system, because that car doesn't have a low bassed speaker. It forgoes that completely. It has, you know, the high tones, the mid tones, and then it has a subwoofer that has to play both the lows and the mid lows. And for more type of music, I think this is better. It just sounds more natural, and I prefer the sound system in this car for more types of music than that we find in the EX40, which is a lot surprising. I actually think this is probably the best sound system in a small car I've heard maybe ever. It's really that good, guys. In my opinion, Volvo used to be a masterclass in interior ergonomics. And when I'm talking about interior ergonomics, I'm talking about all of this here, primary and secondary controls as one ecosystem. Your button layout, your stock layout, and also your infotainment system as one ergonomic ecosystem. Yes, there are cars which have, you know, really good infotainment systems and really good software. Tesla is an example, but Tesla also don't have stocks anymore in the Model 3, and they're going to disappear in the Model Y. We've seen it in the X and the S, and therefore, in my opinion, it ruins a lot of the ergonomic ecosystem. You can have the best infotainment system, but once you start removing stocks, yeah, you're in big trouble because you're taking away a lot of functionality. So with that said, let's take a deeper look into what Volvo have done here, because they have gone a lot of the Tesla route, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So first off, we do now, instead of our physical separated buttons on the steering wheel, now have a panel which you can press down. So it's not a touch panel in that sense. It's kind of like what Audi did with the Q4 e-tron, where you have a touch panel which is a button. So it's still clicky. It's not capacitive like in the Volkswagen ID products. But where Audi have done it better, in my opinion, is the sensitivity and also just separating, you know, buttons with, you know, these indentations like this in a better fashion. Audi have also implemented like touch sensitivity on top of that. So for example, here on the right side, if you want to do volume up and down, you have to press here. You do that in an Audi, but in an Audi you can also swipe it like that. So you have both choices, which I think is the best of both worlds. But the layout here in of itself is, you know, what we've seen from Volvo before. You have your voice commands there, skip forwards and backwards for your track, and then you have volume up and down. And then on the left side here, you have your adaptive cruise control. So this is to set it, and this is also to increase the speed and to decrease the speed. And then you can toggle between pilot assist, that's auto steer, and a normal adaptive cruise control there. And then here you have a favorite button which you can program. So the button layout is fine, and usually this is nothing I would have complained about, you know, this not having, you know, physical separated buttons. But in this car and the other EX30s I've driven, this is like the third or fourth or fifth one I've driven in the past few weeks. The sensitivity setting of this is really bad, where you have to just be very precise where you press the button. And when it's not, when it's a flat panel, that's not always easy to do when you're driving. So I've find myself, just trying to increase the volume and just pressing and pressing and pressing. And look at this, guys. Okay, now it's working, but it's not very responsive. Like that, a few clicks, it doesn't register. Like there, I'm clicking, but nothing is happening. And this is the story of this steering wheel. So there's a lot of room for improvement here. And the way it is now, I think they could do it with software, or maybe they have to do it with the hardware panels behind here. Either way, guys, this is not good enough. It's a good idea, but the implementation, the execution just isn't good enough. And also, guys, we have a new stock layout with these Volvo. So instead of having two stocks where you can do your blinkers, your lights, and your washer fluid on a left and a right stock, everything is now done on the left stock, which is what Mercedes does, is what a lot of other cars do. But again, Volvo was a masterclass with their dual stock layout, where in my opinion, I thought they just had, one of the best stock layouts in the business. As you can see here, you now have your front and rear wipers, which is the top is the front, the bottom is the rear, and you long press them to use your washer fluid. And also you can turn this knob here to do your wipers. But one up is auto, and to go into your sensitivity settings, you have to go into this screen here, which is really annoying. You don't have a setting there anymore. And then on the right side here, guys, you have your gear selector, which is actually really welcome. I actually think this is a really nice implementation. I just wish they didn't take away as much functionality from this stock here as they have done. But with that being said, you also now have like these BMW style blinkers where it goes back to center once you push it. And I have to say, the quality, just the overall feel of this stock here, the way it looks, and that is illuminated, which is really cool, and just the overall quality and materials here is really nice. It feels much nicer than anything we've seen from Mercedes with a similar layout. The same goes for the gear selector here also. It just feels really nice and of high quality. So that is really impressive actually. So let's dive into the infotainment system screen. So this is a 12.1 inch portrait style screen. And a lot of people have been complaining that there is no driver display in this car. I actually don't mind it. I actually don't mind it. On top here, you have all your, your typical settings. And I'm just going to turn down the heat here because it was a little bit hot. You have your driver display on top. This is not a touch panel on top here, though I think it's one screen. They just don't have, any UI for doing anything up here. So you have your gear selector, you have your indicator for adaptive cruise control or pilot assist, and then you have your what gear you are on, you have your range, your battery percentage, and all of that information there. And then you have your central screen here, which is your map, and you can also press home to make that a little bigger, or you can press home again, and then you have a few, shortcuts here and there. And at first glance, it looks really clean, it's responsive and nice to use. You have a few shortcuts here, but there are a few things that I think the other Volvo infotainment systems have done better. The Polestar 2 infotainment system has done better with, a similar size screen. And that is, for example, the HVAC controls here. Now you have to do anything, you have to press there, and then it expands a menu. So you have your heated steering wheel there, you have your heated seats, and then you have your climate control there. Instead of just pressing, plus and minus for your temperature and having shorter and faster shortcuts that, take up less real estate. This is annoying because it takes up so much real estate, you're losing your navigation menu. And also if you do anything else, like if you're in some of these menus here and then you're on navigation, it will, show you a big arrow, or take right or take left here. And then you have to press that, to exit every time, which is a good feature, but it's also annoying that it takes so much real estate, that prompt in the navigation system. So you have Spotify here, you have your phone, and then you have, your trunk here. You also have the glove box here. And it has, Google Maps here with the route planning, which is one of the best in the business. I really like it, though I've had some hiccups with this car. You know, hiccups with the steering wheel, hiccups with the infotainment system here, which seems to be the name of the game. So if you go into your apps here, you have a few, you know, shortcuts here to different apps: Spotify, YouTube, you know, TV2 Play is a Norwegian, a TV app. You also have Play Store, so it's really nice, you know, the Android Automotive Infotainment System ecosystem, where you have a lot of access to a lot of apps. But as it is 2024, you have a few mandatory annoying things from the EU when it comes to driver safety. So if you go into here, you have your speed warning limit, you also have your lane keep assist, and then you have your driver alert. So this here is a really nice shortcut menu, and this speed limit warning is actually, in this car, it's actually tethered to the shortcut button. So when I press the shortcut button, it goes on and off. I wish you could do it like a macro, where you could do 3 or 4 different settings for your shortcut buttons, or they just had an easier and more simplified, you know, shortcut menu where you could, you know, customize all your shortcuts here, which other cars let you do already, like Volkswagen Group cars lets you, you know, decide your shortcuts. So you use just one press and then you go bum, 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 and then everything is off. And then every time you have to turn this off, you have to, yes, I want to turn it off. So this is in one place, and for the most part, this is enough for me, just turning off lane keep assist and also speed limit warning. But as you guys can see here, we have a large driver sensor alert system, which is in settings, and then you have to go to driving. You see that is not always responsive. The same goes for the steering wheel. So there's some kind of lag with this software here. I think it's the software, because it's, you know, is as prevalent in the infotainment system as it is here with the touch buttons. And then you have to go all the way down here to more, and then you have to turn off driver alert. And the reason I turn off driver alert, and also this is annoying, even though you turn off lane keep assist, it still, you know, gives you some kind of warning when you cross the lanes. And here in Norway, especially in winter where the lanes or the markers are not visible, it's just not, you know, a nice thing to have that on. It's just vibrating all the time. But driver alert is really annoying, and not in all cars, but especially in this car, because say you're going down a stretch of road, you're going down this way, and then you're going into a roundabout, and then you want to look to your left. Once you look to your left, the car will like bing, 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 bing. It wants you to pay attention to the road. So it's so sensitive. I've had me just looking, you know, over here at the speed, like what's the speed I'm going, and the car's like bing, 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 pay attention to the road. So there's a lot to be done with the software. There's a lot of annoying stuff with the software, which in my opinion, at this point in time, as good as this car is to drive, it's really hard for me to recommend this car to anybody because of just how the inconsistent the button layout here is working. I mean, the buttons on the steering wheel is working. It's really inconsistent. It's just annoying. And also all the menus you have to dive deep into every time you have to turn off the simple, you know, driver assistance systems, which in a perfect world work so nicely that you don't turn it off. Like I had an Audi Q4 e-tron on loan, and it only binged one time, the one time you went over the speed limit, and then it just gave you a visible warning. And also the lane keep assist isn't that intrusive, and also the driver alert system isn't that intrusive. So it just meant most of the time, like driving around here in, you know, in the suburbs of Oslo, I just didn't turn it off. And that's what we really want. But I know this is going to be a long section of the video, but because there's a lot to talk about do driver ergonomics. And also I haven't mentioned that to adjust the steering wheel and the mirrors, you have to go into, you know, a separate menu, which is just annoying. You have to go in here, which is just why make it so hard? I mean, nobody ever like bought a Tesla and it's like, oh, I really like the fact that I have to go into 3 menus to adjust my steering wheel. I really like the fact that I have to press so deep into the menu to adjust the mirrors. That's just superb. I don't understand what some of these software engineers are thinking about, but I was lucky a few weeks ago where I went to their winter driving experience, got to talk to Anna, who is responsible for the software layout here, and also other people who are responsible for this car. So me and other journalists, we really voiced our opinions on how not good a lot of the infotainment system is. We want shortcuts, we want more simple ways to turn stuff off or make the systems better. So they were really positive for our feedback, and hopefully the more people who voice their opinion, more journalists and more of you who voice this in the comments, the more likely we will get the updates and upgrades we want. Because as this is now, in my opinion, it's an unfinished product and not good enough when it comes to the software. In many ways, the EX30 is a huge step in the right direction for the brand and also this segment of electric vehicle. Remember, the starting price of this car is a very low 320,000 kroners here in Norway, or just above 30,000 euros. And for around 40,000 euros, so 400,000 kroners here in Norway, you can get a single motor, extended range with the Plus package, which gives you most of the equipment you want and need for about the price of a Volkswagen ID.3 Pro, but with, yes, a little bit less space in the rear, a little bit less space in the trunk, but much more performance, more range, better stereo, and superior driving dynamics and comfort levels. And also the way this car looks is really, really nice. So I think the way Volvo have gone with, you know, the way this car is set up, the tuning, the driving dynamics, the refinement levels, is a huge step in the right direction, but at the same time, going to more of a touch-based infotainment system and removing buttons is also a huge step in the wrong direction, especially considering that this infotainment system isn't ready or isn't finished. So this is a real hard one because I really love the way this car drives. I really love the way it looks on the interior and on the exterior. I think it feels like a proper premium product in most aspects. It's just a pity that the software just isn't there yet. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below about the new Volvo EX30. Do you like it? Don't you like it? Are these things a deal breaker for you or not? So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.